Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Whenever you are tuning in, welcome to another episode of Kaya Talks. Today, we're going to dive into a fascinating topic, genetic expression and how it helps us to understand the effects of cannabinoids in our biological systems. And we brought a very special guest, which is Dr. Rishabh Kala. Well, I'm sorry if I didn't say your name correctly, but I'm sure you're gonna give us that afterwards. And
Yeah, for
he's an
sure.
expert. Oh, perfect. He's an expert in epigenetics and biotechnology. Thank you so much for being here, Dr. Kala.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to this podcast.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Well, I'm going to give you guys a small, but not that small biography of Dr. Kala because it's important for you guys to understand why we brought him here today to talk to you. And it's also important to say that this podcast is a sponsorship of Synergy Life Science, which is a company that has a product called Canasorb, which we will talk a little bit more in the end, and you guys will understand what's the correlation between the product and our main topic today. So, Dr. Kala is actually a Ph.D. and he serves as a science and medical advisory of emeritus board member at Synergy Life Science. He's a renowned researcher in genetics expression and epigenetics with an extensive experience in translational science and biotech innovation. Well, he has a PhD from the University of Alabama in Birmingham, and his work in epigenetics has earned multiple scientific publications and awards. And he is also the former director of research at Gene Markers, where he led comparative genetic expressions between Canasorb and traditional CBD oil that's mixed in MCT, like Epidiolex, that is the only FDA-approved cannabinoid-based medication. So in gene markers, the test results demonstrated how Canasorb, which is the product from Synergy Life Science technology, which is water-soluble CBD, enhances genetics expression due to its higher bioavailability, proving to be more effective than oil-based cannabis. Cannabidiol, actually, not oil-based cannabis, right? So, Dr. Kala, can you please talk a little bit more, if possible, in what is genetics expression and how it does relate to cannabinoids?
Yeah, sure, definitely. So it's to really simplify this for your audience. Let's say you and I, we are communicating with a language called English, right? We're using English as a mode of communication right now. It's the same thing. Our body has to communicate with different cells in the system, and they use genes and they use gene expression as mode of communication with the body. For example, let's say if I'm in pain, my body will signal, it will do some gene expression to my different organs and tissues to tell them like, hey, the body is experiencing some kind of trauma, some kind of pain. So either you suppress it or there will be a constant signal of paining. So that's like a simplified version of what gene expression is. It's like a
Okay,
communication mode of our body.
okay. And well, I understand that that's really important because that would help us understand how the endocannabinoid systems function and how the cannabinoids affects our body, right? The gene expression test could help us
That is
to
true.
understand that.
Yes, yes, we do understand that. So you have to understand like a lock and key model where we have certain locks in our cells. These are called receptors, and key is the cannabinoid. For example, CBD or any other form of cannabinoid, when you consume them or when you inject them or when you somehow introduce them in our body, they bind to those locks on the cell to unlock that cell and do some transformation. For example, there are different receptors on cells for CB1 and CB2 where cannabinoid will bind to them and then they will perform different biological function. Example, improvement in sleep, improvement in mood, relaxation, pain, inflammation, immune response. So these are all the downstream targets, how a cannabinoid is going to affect the body. So
And just to
it's all going through a system called gene expression. So that's why it's like the very first communication mode of our body with cells.
Okay. And just because some people that might be hearing us, they might not know what is CB1 and CB2, which is something that you mentioned. Could you just explain really quickly why these
Yes.
two receptors are so important when we are talking about cannabinoids?
So to really break it down in a simple form is, in order to enter any place, you need to unlock that door, or you need to unlock that lock, right? It's the same thing for cells. Cells have certain locks on them, and those two locks are CB1 and CB2. When cannabinoid will bind to those locks, for example, the key, which is the cannabinoid, when it binds to that lock, it will unlock the cell to do all those functions. So and every lock has a specific key. It's like you cannot use any key for that, any lock. So same thing with CB1 and CB2. These are the two locks on our cells, and only cannabinoid can bind to it. And when it is bound to it, it will unlock the function of that cell.
Perfect. I've seen once, I think the image that most helped me understand what were these receptors and how they worked was actually a key lock. And
Yeah.
someone actually painted it like, oh, so this, here comes the cannabinoid, this is your cell, the receptor is like the door that's locked, and when
Exactly.
the cannabinoid enters it, it's unlocked, and its therapeutical value, let's say, is able to do what it was meant to do when you put it inside, right?
That is true, because our body is flooded with a lot of different biochemicals, and you want to have a specific response. That's why each lock has its specific key. So CB1 and CB2 are the locks, and cannabinoids are the keys for that.
Perfect. And well, you led actually the comparative studies between Canasorb and CBD oil in the past. And if someone is entering our podcast now and didn't hear the beginning of it, the big difference between Canasorb and the traditional CBD oil, let's call it, it's because Canasorb is water soluble. Okay, so that's why I'm asking Dr. Kala about it specifically. So could you please explain us a little bit of how you conducted these tests and what the main findings were, so we can understand what's the importance of having a water-soluble product?
Definitely. So one thing to worth mentioning is Canasorb itself. It's like a groundbreaking invention which Synergy Life Science has brought to this world. Where if you look at the entire cannabinoid space, these are all oil soluble. They're not water soluble. It's very challenging to solubilize them. But what Synergy or Canasorb has done is they have invented a new biomolecule, which is CBD itself, but it's more water soluble. And so what happens is you improve the bioavailability of that molecule when it versus the older version, or like the CBD itself, where it is more oil soluble, so it's not bioavailable. Second thing is the penetration. You are improving the penetration of that biomolecule because it's more water soluble, it will penetrate deeper. And stability is another thing where it is more stable. So these are the three key groundbreaking things of Canasorb. Now, in terms of testing, whenever we run a test, you have to run them parallel between CBD oil and then Canasorb, and then see the performance of the new ingredient, how it is working. And we use gene expression as one of the tools because that's the mode of communication of the body. And it's the faster mode. You want to really capture what all changes are happening in real time. That's why these two were used, and the testing was done using gene expression.
Okay. No, it makes a lot of sense. And while you were speaking, I was thinking, I always try to bring a bit of personal, if not mine, of someone I've heard experience, because you were talking about the three main findings, and I was thinking, well, firstly, our body is made up of 60% of water. I'm not sure, something like that. So of course, water penetrates better and has a better solubility and everything in our body being water-based than oil-based. The second thing is that oil normally is not something we take. So in the pharmacy, there are not many oil-conducted therapies. So for me, I hate CBD oil normally because of the flavor. And I'm like an autistic child in that matter. You have to give me strawberries or mint. Do not give me chlorophyll or weed taste because I do not like it. So I'm not going to be happy and I'm going to get out of this treatment. So that's actually something I was going to ask you, what's the importance of these findings for the medical professionals? But I'm also thinking about how it could be good for the patients itself, right?
That's true. Like you yourself, like when you were mentioning, our body is made up of water, right? 60-70% is water. And that's true. If you have something which is more water soluble, more bioavailable, and so your results will be faster. You don't need high amount of that particular molecule because now you can bypass you don't need like a heavy load of that. Even a small amount of that active ingredient or active molecule is enough to show the efficacy because you are having a better penetration, better absorption, faster effects. So these are like the key benefits of cannabis when you compare that with the traditional CBD oil. And top of that, like no one likes to like consume a lot. Everyone wants faster result with a smaller input. And that's what cannabis is bringing to the market. With low amount, you are seeing the better effect, enhanced effect, versus like the higher amount of CBD oil where you don't see those effects.
Perfect. And well, for healthcare professionals, thinking about them right now, because saying the truth right now, the patients, they're just going with the flow. So there's not many options in Brazil yet. We do not have the production locally. So everything is imported, or you have the NGOs doing some things that are home-based, let's say, or nationally produced, but everything is oil-based. But thinking about the healthcare professionals, how could this help them in getting, I'm not going to say more prescriptions, but better prescriptions or even more personalized prescriptions for their patients?
So you need to understand the end user. When you talk about patients, let's say, now I'm not a physician, so I cannot comment on that, but I know how biology works. So if a end user or patient is coming to you and they want you to prescribe something or recommend something for pain medication or inflammation, you give them CBD oil. They will take it. It might not show effects, but let's say if they are recommended or the physicians are educated for a better form of cannabinoid, which is cannabis, which is more water soluble, your patients will like it because they will see results in a faster way. And when they come back, you have a reoccurring model because that patient will have more faith or more trust on that physician because whatever he's recommending, it's working fast and in real time versus something which was taking months and months to work. So that's that thing to consider. And most important thing is it's like getting the word out. And I think podcasts like this will help a lot because a lot of people are not aware that there is water soluble CBD. So work which you're doing is really good because it's gonna educate not only the end user but also the physicians because it's important for them to know that there is a new molecule which is more potent, better bioavailable, and more user-friendly than the oil-based system.
Of course, and you were also talking about stability, which is a big problem we have here in Brazil because we need to think that this product will have to travel sometimes first by mainland, let's say, so it has to leave Synergy Life Science warehouse and go to a warehouse that's near to an airport or something like that. It has to take a plane that comes to Brazil. Then it's going to be stored in the airport for a couple of days until it's, so you having a stable product, especially because, I'm not sure where Dr. Kala is, but I'm in Brazil, São Paulo, which is a big city. And right now it's like 37 degrees. So we are like super hot. And oils, when especially MCT. So MCT, who has never heard about this? MCT is like coconut oil, but bettered, right? It's a more clean form of coconut oil, because here in Brazil we have a lot of coconut oil for cooking and things like that. It's not this coconut oil we are talking about, MCT. It's a better form, but it still has, if it's either too cold or too hot, it will change its form.
Correct. Yes.
So that's not really good, right?
Yeah, you need something which is stable at different temperature, and that's what Cannabis is offering. And not only this, like you brought up a good point, MCT oil. A lot of time, and this I have seen in my past work, where you think a CBD when dissolved in MCT oil will show the effects, but a lot of time it's the MCT oil itself, which is a very potent vehicle. It has some good effects on skin or in body. So yeah.
Of course,
You
no.
really don't know if you're seeing the effects of CBD, or is it the MCT oil which is showing those effects?
Yeah, it's true. No, and you talked about a lot of things that when you were putting, I was being able to put it in practice. So thinking about like the wellness industry, which is trying to make things, the therapeutical forms more available and more practical, right? So who has the time to take 29 pills a day? And here in
Exactly.
Brazil, something we do a lot. I'm not sure you have this in the United States, okay? So I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna explain to you. We take a lot of vitamin C, which is like a orange pill.
Okay.
We put it in water, and it has like these bubbles, and it dissolves in water. Have you ever
Okay.
seen this?
Yes, I have seen that. Yes.
So here, this is like a big, big thing. There are a lot of people, well, I take it every day because I do not take much orange juice or lemon juice, and I'm always vitamin C with a deficit. And I was thinking, well, if I already take something in water every day, it would be much easier to just put like 3 drops in my water than having to take an oil that I need to be, sometimes I need to be in fasting, or I need to put it under my tongue to leave it for a couple of seconds so it absorbs better. And it's not practical this for a normal day where I'm going to the office or whatever, right?
Yeah, you can actually, instead of coming up with a new system, you can use your same system and just add that ingredient or that additional compound. So that's a good user friendly.
Perfect. Okay, so, but is there any other big thing you think we have not covered in this first part of our podcast?
We covered most of it, like why gene expression. That was very important for your listeners. Like, why are we doing it? And it's communication, because that's how the body will communicate with different cells, different tissues, and we need to address the elephant in the room. So yeah.
Perfect. So now, for who is listening us and has never listened to our podcast, now we're going to start, a segment that I really like, because we're going to put Dr. Kala in a position where he will have to answer really quickly some things, because it's going to help you who is listening to us to better understand technical things, but that affect your life daily, and that they are important for you to understand, especially when we are talking about an industry such as cannabis, where things are always new and we are always bringing a lot of innovation to the table. So this is rapid fire questions. Dr. Kala, please help me. Let's be dynamic, fast-paced, and spontaneous. It's really important that also you are spontaneous and having fun doing this segment with us, okay?
All right, let's do it.
Nice. So with one word, how would you define the importance of genetic expressions for cannabinoids?
So it's a must-have, and it's required to understand the mechanism of action, how cannabinoids are working.
Perfect. So that also helps us understand what you said in the beginning about the keys, because we probably wouldn't understand that if we had not done genetics tests also, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. And what's the biggest takeaway from the comparative what is the biggest takeaway from the comparative tests between Canasorb and traditional CBD?
Wow. Okay. So it's better efficacy, faster absorption, quick action.
More than a rapid fire answer than that, I cannot ask. And well, if you could apply gene expression testing to another compound besides cannabinoids, what would it be?
So, so there are other plant-based biomolecules where this kind of testing is routinely involved because, as I said, this is one of the main MOA, really to understand the mode of action of any ingredient or any biomolecule. So it can be any supplement or, for example, like curcumin, resveratrol, anything which is derived from plant to really understand how they are working.
Well, here in Brazil, whey protein, creatine, and everything, those things are getting bigger and bigger every day. So maybe we could be applying this kind of tests here to understand how our body is receiving all the supplements.
You need to really know what's happening. You just don't want to dump everything in your body without even realizing what's going downstream to it.
And a common myth about cannabinoids that you would like to debunk?
A lot of people question, like, is it really good for pain and inflammation? And in the past, my work, other colleagues have shown that cannabinoids are really good pain inhibitor and inflammation inhibitors. So they are really out there. I guess they are the best out there, but it requires more clinical study. But based on the studies which we have done, or my colleagues who have done work in this field, we feel pain and inflammation is really the area.
And I do not know what Dr. Kala is going to answer. So we're going to bring some data which is fresh out of research. 70% of Brazil suffers some kind of chronic pain. We're a 212 million people country. So 70% are in pain daily. That's crazy to think, because it's not all muscular pain. Not everyone has fibromyalgia. No, some things are normal pains that are inflammations that are inside your body. So if we're talking about cannabis and cannabinoids being one of the best there are out there for pain and inflammation, and it's also natural, and it can be put on your daily treatments.
Yeah,
it's perfect. I didn't know Dr. Kala was gonna answer me that. Okay, I just read this research yesterday, so it was very nice. And just so we can finish this segment, if you could predict a breakthrough in cannabinoid science in the next 5 years, what do you think it would be?
I think it's so going back to our pain and inflammation point, where our bodies they experience inflammation ongoing. Like, we experience inflammation not just after any particular disease or anything. It's an ongoing process. That's how the body works. So there is always a basal level of inflammation going on in our system. So I feel like health and wellness area where you can incorporate something like this in your daily routine will really help you control that baseline inflammation, because we all are aging, and one of the major cause of aging is inflammation. So if you can somehow regulate that by just adding few drops in your water and drink it, like consume it, it's a simple thing to do.
Perfect. And actually, I think it would make people better people, because sometimes we get stressed or we sleep worse when we're in pain. So it's not just the pain for itself, right? It's wellness in its whole.
Yeah, the bottom line is, you're not looking for a treatment. You're looking for something which is like a daily regimen, like a preventive thing, where you take it every day or you consume it every day, and then it becomes part of your journey. instead of like fixing something which is already broken. That's tough to fix. But if you can fix it before it breaks, it's better.
And I think it's the new path for health, right? Because I
Yeah.
think we already passed that idea that one medication cures one thing and it's only one option. We know that today it's a lot of factors like lifestyle and sports and whatever you take and you do for your whole life that's going to impact if you're going to have a neurological problem or a muscular problem or whatever. Because as you said, aging is the new big thing. We are an aging world. So we
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
think about life when we are a bit older. I hope we're going to be everyone here really old. And by then science will have helped us be better 90-year-old people. Well, so now we are going to go to the last segment of our podcast. And again, if you are listening for the first time, Kaya Talks, we love to hear more about whoever we invite to come to us, because we believe that people, they go beyond only one thing they've done or one research or one product. So right now, I'm going to go for curiosity questions with Dr. Kala. And here the idea is to explore a little bit of his experiences, what were his challenges, and of course, get his vision on how things are working from his point of view, because I'm not in a lab. I'm here doing podcast with you. So I'm also curious to know how things for who is doing research are looking. So
Yeah, no,
I might, oh,
that's
please.
interesting. No, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No problem. I would first actually ask you, what was your biggest challenge when you were conducting genetic expression tests on cannabinoids? Was there something that you said, oh my God, I had never seen this before, or I had never faced this kind of challenge doing a research?
So there were a few initial hiccups, few challenges which we noticed. One was the like the all solubility of cannabinoid in oil, and it says it is soluble in oil. That's good, but then you have to use so high amount of that substance to really see the effects. So that was one of the biggest challenge. And then when you have a lot of oil, it's the penetration which is also a problem. Absorption, penetration. So those were like the key issues which we had to encounter and try to figure out how to do it. Versus when we worked with Canasor, we never encountered that. I kept asking team, like, are you sure you want to use this amount? Because this is so low. I have never used such low amount. And they kept saying, yes, it will be better. And I was shocked to see the results. Like, yeah, with the low amount, you see better effects versus I was dumping a lot of CBD in oil and still not seeing that effect. So it clearly shows that oil-based stuff, penetration, absorption is an issue.
Yeah, that's good. And here in Brazil, we have an expression. So for who doesn't know, Tim is the main leader of Synergy Life Science, which Dr. Kala just mentioned. And here in Brazil, we have kind of expression that when the owner knows what he's doing, he like claps on his chest because he's like, come with me, I know what I'm saying. And for what you're saying, Tim did that. Yeah, like, trust me, it's going to have the proven effect.
So yeah, that was the biggest challenge, where we were dealing with two extreme entities. One was you have to dump a lot of CBD in oil, and another one was like, nope, you don't need that much. Just go with small amount. So yeah, that was very, very interesting.
And that's good because just so you guys know, so here in Brazil, so whoever is listening is, if you don't know the difference between what we have being sold in pharmacies and what we have being sold through importations, one of the problems we have in the pharmacies is that most of the products that are available at a accessible price, they are really, really diluted. So you have to take, I'm going to say here, so let's say you need 30 milligrams of cannabinoids on your day, because that's the recommendation of your doctor or your medical professional. So some of the oils that we have here in the pharmacies, you need to take more than 30 drops. So taking a drop, I'm not sure if you guys have ever tested like counting drops on your mouth. It's not something so easy to do. It's not. And having to count up to 30, it's a bit harder because you get lost in the middle, because was it 15 or 16 that it just dropped? Because I'm not sure if it was 1 or 2. So having a product that you can take less and have the same effect is actually better for you, because you're gonna even have like let's say a better usage of what's in that bottle, because sometimes we're losing products because we're miscounting for more or for less, and then you don't know why the treatment for some days is so good and for some days is not so well. And if you add that with what Dr. Kala said of oil-based products having a more harder absorption, that makes sense why you need sometimes 30 milligrams, and that's 30 drops. Does it make sense what I just said?
Yeah, definitely. You're adding more because you need that efficacy. But if you can go bypass with small amount, why not? Everyone will love that.
Perfect. And besides, obviously, these two products being so different, was there any other discovery in the study that surprised you, that you said, oh, I was not expecting this?
So it was mostly the amount which was used, and the mindset is, oh, you need to, because that's how we are trained. That's how we have seen in the past that, oh, you really need a lot of cannabinoid to see the effects. But when we tried small amount, I was like, this is not going to work. But looking at the data, I was really shocked, because you see more biomarkers, or what do we call, like the locks being unlocked by a small amount of cannabis versus such a high amount of CBD. So that was one of the most surprising thing for me. Using so low amount and still seeing the effects was really encouraging also, and surprising.
That's good, because we also have here in Brazil more products that are arriving. They're like 12,000 milligrams of CBD.
Yeah.
And we're like, 12,000 milligrams of CBD. Oh my God, how much must you be taking a day? And
because
maybe
it's not a job, that's why they're dumping. It's like you dump ton of stuff, something will be absorbed. That's the
it's
and
like
I don't blame them, because that's how the industry is. And this is like a really new innovative way to fix that problem.
yeah, that's not good. It's the same as writing a lot in your answer when you were in school and see if
Exactly.
something goes. If you
Let me write papers and papers, something will be right.
yes,
That's what happens.
exactly.
You
No, and
dump a
that's
lot of
not good.
supplements, something will be absorbed. So that was really
Perfect.
surprising, where it was a fast acting, low dose, highly efficacious. So that's a good thing. That's a really good improvement to what current system is using.
Okay. And well, I've asked something similar to that, but maybe you can now elaborate a little bit more. If you could apply genetic testing to other products, that is today in the wellness and healthcare industry, what would it be and why?
That's a good point. So as you know, and you have seen in your consumers and your listeners, that supplementation, health and wellness is growing exponentially. And I think a lot of time people just launch product without doing any testing. They like, for example, you just say 12,000 milligrams of CBD. That's a lot. Like, really, do we really know what effects it has? Is it really working? So if it was me, I would recommend running those genetic tests on a lot of supplementation, health and wellness products to really see what effect it has on the system. Is it really working, or you're just dumping your body? Because you need to understand, everything will bypass through liver. Liver is gonna dump everything out. So is it absorbed, or you're just wasting your money buying that product with no effects on it?
We have a famous TikToker here in Brazil, and don't laugh at me, guys, because I'm talking about a TikToker. She's actually a biologist that has a master's degree and doing her doctorate. So she's a scientific person, and she says a lot about doing a very expensive peeing, because sometimes all you are doing, taking so many vitamins and so many things that you're not doing, is you're doing a very expensive pee because you are not absorbing that, you're not
Yeah,
having all that benefits, you are just like spending money to feel better that you are taking care of your health, right?
true. It's one of the myths where people think like, oh, let me take 1,000 milligrams, 2,000 milligrams, 5,000 milligrams of it. Something will be absorbed. It's really in turn is hurting your body. It's not a good way to approach a problem. It has to be efficacious. You need to know if it is really working. And doing this kind of testing really helps unlock those doors because you are providing them with some scientific proof that, hey, our product has worked and we have this data to back it up.
Yeah, and I think we're getting closer to that evidence-based
Correct.
each time more, because
Yes.
right now Anvisa, which is our FDA with a lot of quotes, okay, because they don't work the same, but let's say it's like our FDA, they just launched this study about whey proteins, and the top brands were like prohibited to be commercialized because they did not have what they said they had. And like we're talking about whey protein, which is not controlled. Imagine this in the healthcare industry where we are talking about a real treatment for people that are sometimes have really serious conditions, and they're trying to leave their antidepressants, or they're trying to leave their uh, autism medication or things like that. And we cannot go wrong that way, right? We cannot put there is something in the label and do not deliver that. So I think as a society, we are starting to understand more. Okay, so why do I need that certificate of analysis? And why do I need to understand what there is inside, right?
True. And one thing is important, like a lot of people don't understand this, that these are supplements or these are adding something to your current regimen. They are not the treatments. Like, don't consider them as drugs because they are not the drugs. That's not what we are trying to do here. It's a supplementation to your daily regimen where you add a little bit of it and then you keep doing that over a course of period. It's like a safeguard to your system.
It's
So,
here in Brazil, we use a lot of phytotherapeutical product because it explains a bit of the difference between taking, I don't know, paracetamol that is not nature based or doesn't it can only be done in a lab, and sometimes taking even something that helps you with your anxiety or helps you with your pain, but it's not done in a lab. It can be synthesized and it can be put in a lab to help, like Cannabis was done, to help it has better availability, better stability, but it is nature based.
yeah, you have to go back to nature to really find the answer. Like, yes, you can use those pharmaceutical chemically synthesized stuff, but in reality is you have to take a step back and go to the natural medication to really fix those problems.
Well, and my last question before we start doing our wrapping up: what
Mhm.
motivates you most to continue researching epigenetics and cannabinoids?
So that's a good question. So like it's a new emerging field, epigenetics. It's like I don't know if your readers or if your listeners know about this. It's like every for last 50 years, it was like, oh, your DNA is your destiny. It's no longer your destiny. You can change your destiny by changing your habits, by changing your supplementation, by changing your diet. So that's all covered under epigenetics. So you really can change the environment which is surrounding your DNA to really have a better lifestyle. And that's what is happening with cannabinoids and epigenetics. It's like helping you calm down your anxiety, your inflammation, your pain. And it's not just with cannabinoids, there are other plant based medication as well, supplementation. So, yeah, I think it's the future and it's how the medicine is moving now. instead of just focusing on like, oh yeah, my DNA is like this. I think I cannot do anything. It's not true anymore.
The difference between getting to 90 years old thinking you know what's going to kill you and getting to 90 years old trying to change whatever a test or whatever
Yeah,
someone told you it's going to happen, right?
correct.
Perfect. Well, I hope we all get to 90 years old and we're really, really healthy, or 100 years old or whatever, and we're using more plant-based medicines, because I actually, even before cannabis, I would take anxiolytic. We say here in Brazil, I'm not sure that has this, you have this word in English?
No.
Anxiolytic. It would be something that takes a bit your anxiety. So you can use a product that's almost an depressant, or you can use sometimes the same molecule we have in nature that do like passion fruit juices.
Okay. All right.
So here in Brazil, we have a lot of plant-based medicines for anxiety because it's a really anxious country. And one of the most popular uses the same molecule as the juice. And people are like, but this cannot work. And many doctors are like, no, this actually can work even better depending on your age. If you're open-minded to it, than an antidepressant that will have a lot of other consequences to your body than not just the anxiety part.
No, that's interesting. I was not knowing it down. That's good. Yeah.
I'm gonna send you the name of the product so then you can
That's
see.
fair.
We are in Brazil, which is a place where we have a lot of juice. We have a lot of we have the habit of eating salad, eating a lot of fruit. So it always makes me a bit anxious when we are not talking about medicine, thinking about that, because what you put inside your body is part of how you're taking care or not of your body. So
That is true.
CBD
Yeah.
is something extra to put in this meal plan, let's say like this, and in your lifestyle that can make you get to 90 years old better or not sometimes.
Yeah, it's the health span which everyone is trying to improve, and supplements, plant-based molecules have proven to show that it works. It's just the how do you take it, what kind of, you don't want to dump just stuff in your body. It will damage you.
Yeah, perfect. And well, I cannot finish this podcast without giving a big shout and thank yous to Synergy Life Science, because Synergy Life Science is a pioneering company in cannabinoid technology solutions, which is really focused on innovation, safety, and efficacy. The flagship product, which is Canasorb, that we talked a little bit during our podcast, is water-soluble cannabinoids designed to maximize absorption and bioavailability of CBD. So what sets Synergy apart is actually not just this product, but they went to do genetic expression testings that were conducted at gene markers, and that helped to scientifically prove the superiority of the product over the traditional oil. So thank you so much, guys, for sponsoring this talk with Dr. Kala. I think it can actually make things much more clear to physicians and, of course, to patients which are hearing us and that are interested not only to be doing CBD treatment, but getting the best there is in CBD options today. And Dr. Kala, thank you so much for being here. It was an honor to have this conversation, and it provided incredible insights. And for those of us who want to hear more about Dr. Kala, his work, Synergy Life Science, you will find a lot of links in this podcast description. So, Dr. Kala, if you have any closing remarks, please let our listeners hear it. And again, thank you so much.
No, I think this was really helpful, because I think it's very important to educate the end user and to really let them know what is out there and what is good for them, what is not good for them. Because a lot of time, I think people are not even aware that there is this kind of stuff out there. So I think what you're doing is really, it's like you're educating the entire world with your work. So that's really good.
Thank you so much. The communicator in me is so happy to hear this because whoever works with this team we work knows that sometimes being able to educate is the most important because once you understand the benefits, it's hard to be against, right? So there's so many good things and so little bad things that people always think only about the small part of bad things there are, and there's that sometimes they're not even related to CBD and the cannabinoids we're talking about. So it's this prejudice that takes the whole industry back, and that it should not, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. Yes, definitely.
Well, for you that listened to us for all this time and that was interested in our theme, thank you so much for being here. This is Kaya Talks. It is our podcast where we monthly or sometimes even every 2 weeks, we are talking about with a specialized person, a specialist in its segment to bring you more information about the cannabis world and how it's evolving, its trends, innovations, and technology. I see you next time and thank you for being here.
Thank you.